Hey guys, so we are back for another Patreon drawing. So this time we're actually going to be doing a Peryton, which if you don't know, is a half bird, half deer. They're very pretty because they have like deer bodies, but they have the wings and like tail feathers of a bird. So you can obviously do like a whole bunch of different combinations and it just looks very pretty. So we're actually going to be mixing it with a saw palmetto plant, which, based upon Google, because I am looking at pictures of this so I could do this right, is you probably know, but it's what is happening? Okay. It's essentially just a fan shape is what it is. And the colors I saw of what they could be, depending on her habitat and where they are green, like a blue green, and then kind of a silvery white is what they are. They can live in different habitats. There's 3 of them, which are coastal plains, which are just like waterways with a bunch of like wetlands, I suppose. You have scrublands, which are pretty much like rocky and dirt with like a bunch of like low scraggly plants. And you have pine flatwoods, which is one I'm actually going to do because to me, it's got a bunch of the palms, but it also has like some trees and like other foliage mixed in. So that's kind of what I want to do. So it'll be a few trees and then just kind of other plant life. And those colors will be yellow, kind of orange, like, or a darker yellow. We're gonna have a dark brown, medium, and then a darker green, because these will also be put in, but it's just these are more background colors and this is going to be more of the Peryton color, but we're going to include all those. So there's still green involved, obviously, because plants are just green in general unless we do like other flowers and stuff, but if you think about it, they're all pretty much green. And then so the way I'm actually going to do I think I'm going to, what do I want to do? I'm like, do I want to do a buck or do I want to do a doe? I'm only saying that because I have a Peryton character myself. Her name is Celeste, and she's a doe. So I guess I could do a buck. I feel like it'd make more sense to do a buck because that way you can kind of tell it is a Peryton. But I kind of give them a beak and they have the ears. So it'll be the deer body. So front legs are deer. The back legs are the bird. Same with the tail feathers. And then the wings. Right? And then for this, we'll include the horns. So that's kind of what it is. So I think for the wings, let's see. I think everything is just going to be very like palmetto palmsy pretty much. I think this is actually going to be kind of easy to do because I can literally just sit here and just make everything very pointy. Like even the tail feathers, I guess, will look like a normal bird when they're fanned out. I could even do like a secondary layer. And sometimes I actually like to, on the back of the neck, I like to add in extra feathers kind of just going down. So it actually works. And like even around the foot area, I could even do that with like the feathers of like a horse, like a Clydesdale horse, where they have the feathers on their legs. I can do the same thing, but then obviously back here because it's bird legs, so it's going to be kind of cut off. So everything pretty much is just going to be like very pointy, like how the palmetto is. So I guess it actually kind of works and actually makes it easy to deal with. So this actually won't be that bad. Let's see, what other lore do I have? Because what do I want to do? So it's going to be about the size of a fox. So they're going to be kind of small. Okay. Let's see. So it's guardian of hidden pasts, ancient roots, and stubborn plants. So I wonder if you could almost maybe do this and then have a path leading up, right? Because then there's maybe big tree, have roots coming out of the side, and then a bunch of like low-hanging plants kind of partially obscuring the path. I think actually kind of makes sense. And then we can have kind of trees coming off the side. Maybe, and then we'll have more. This will be kind of fun, I think. Because obviously most of it's going to be the palm fronds and then probably some other plants mixed in as well. And then our little Peryton here, I think actually might be enjoying the sun. I wonder if I'm almost could do maybe, or dappled lighting. So maybe include dappled lighting, or try to, but I guess if I can put yellow dots, maybe that'll help me with the dappled. You know, just the spots and whatnot, just on certain parts. And now this one, I think that we'll just have the head and the wings extended. I think will be kind of fun. This will make more sense when I actually get into it, but for the time being, this is where we are. I know this is a mess, but it's fine. It's my mess. So we'll have stretching, enjoying sun, put on cliff, trees, foliage, roots, hidden path. Okay, I think that's good. And obviously more in the background will be very foresty, and I could probably add in some other cliffs and such as we go. But here's this. So now let's start adding in some color. So I want to say I'm probably going to make it mostly green, and then we'll add in, what do I want to do? The order it told me of like color wise was it was green. I think it was a silver. I want to say, or it was green, silver, and then blue. So mostly green. I think we're just gonna go ombre pretty much for this. So mostly green, and then we'll just add in some of these other colors. Pretty much. We'll see. I might do a little bit more when I get there, but I'm only thinking because the palm frond has no patterns or anything on it. Like it's literally just, you know, spikes and green. Like this is literally just kind of what it is. So that's why it's just kind of sticking like this, because even the tail will kind of be similar, and so will the wings pretty much. So each frond will just be colored differently, but they'll all just be like that. And then for this, so we'll just include a little bit of the yellow along with maybe some dappled lighting here and there. This we can probably do for the path and such, because I'm thinking how do I want to do this? I wonder, brown, I don't know, could do this for the trees and the roots. Let's do this, because then I can include this back here on these other trees since they're farther away, so they can be a little bit lighter to make it stick out. but this will be part of the dirt. There. And then, so some parts will just be this darker green. And then anything palm frond or saw palmetto, I don't know what I'm talking about anymore, will be this lighter green, I think. Because that should make sense to do it that way. And then maybe a little bit of the sky will be showing. So I think we're going to do that. So now let's switch over to the actual drawing sheet. Okay, as usual, I'm just going to roughly put in my border. Okay, there we go. That's a start. So now, since we're going to have a little outcropping here, let me start there, because I don't want to bring it all the way over the edge. I'm only thinking because of the trees, if I want to have them sticking out. Okay. And then we'll just draw this. So then I want this with the path. Let me actually put the Peryton in here before I get too crazy. Luckily, again, it doesn't have to be, I mean, I guess we can't really tell. Because, I mean, I suppose normally they'd be like the size of a deer. But we're going to be special. So there's that. Kind of want to have the tail up, I think. So then the wings. Oh my gosh, it almost looks like a hippogriff. It's not my intention, guys, but that's what we're kind of getting at the moment. I feel like once I can do more, it'll look more like a Peryton, but right now it looks like a hippogriff. I think it's just mostly because of the tail. It's funny. But I'll still draw a few trees kind of hanging off. We'll do another one over here. Maybe we can do some more ground, and then maybe I can continue the path on down this way, possibly. And we'll do some more trees shoved in. I don't want to go too much, because if we want that, I mean, if I'm doing dabbled light though, I suppose it doesn't matter too much. But there, and then we'll start roughing in the plants so I can kind of cover the path up. Oh, this is going to turn out so good. I don't know. We'll just pick a bunch of, I'll just do like a bunch of different plants. Mostly of it will be the palmetto. But pretty much that. And then we'll slowly see the path. So that's where we're at. So let me get a head start on this, and then I'll come back when I've made some decent progress, and then we'll continue on. Alright, so this is where I've made it so far. So nothing super crazy, but enough. So like I said, down here, I have the sand palmettos along with some leaves. There are some roots in there, which will be a little harder to tell at the moment until I can actually start coloring. Down here, I have the hidden path. So we'll see how I'm able to do it, but it'll probably be almost the same color as like the dirt, but maybe a little bit lighter. Even back here, I have the makings of the path, but again, we'll try to cover that up a tiny bit. And then probably put some more plants and whatnot over it. And then I have some trees kind of hanging off. I thought it'd be kind of fun just to have the trees either, you know, kind of straight or off to the side, which we'll have some more over here, which we're going to do in a second. And up here, I just did some trees a little bit. Now, as for the Peryton itself, it's funny. It looks like a griffin to me. That's what it reminds me of. Which I did give it beak, but I figured that would make sense. And then there's the antlers, which obviously are not like true antlers. I was kind of just doing them. I didn't think about it. I was just like, I'm with it now, so we're gonna stay with it. And then for like the fur / the feathers, I actually started to do along with the wings. I actually did the petals of the plant is what I was doing here, just to kind of add in more. So I have some of the fur sticking out, but it's also like when, depending on his mood, it can always like come out even more, almost like a defense mechanism was what I had in mind. So then obviously hooves up here. There is a little bit of feathering going on with some more of the petals, and then I have some on the elbows and whatnot. So I'll probably draw some more, like a little bit on the face, but nothing super crazy. But now we're actually gonna get into here, continue on, so we can keep on going. But for this, because I already kind of have it here when I did the green pencil, my color erase, which is this. So pretty much, let me make sure this will stay, hopefully will stay in focus. But for the back legs, I also actually started to draw in more of the body of where kind of how it's going to look underneath the leg. But when I actually do the back legs, I kind of give it a Z shape. So we have the thigh here pretty much, and then I guess the calf, because it is the bird leg. So there's that part, and then you have this part, and then this. So that's why I'm like, it's going to be a Z shape if you look at it from the side. But we have this. So I always do it like this, and then there's the bird claws back here, which obviously we won't be able to tell because of this palmetto, but it's fine. But we'll be able to see a little bit more on this side when I get there. So, all right, but there's that sketched in. As for the tail, I'm gonna do 2 layers for the tail. I thought would be kind of fun. I am doing other designs with this as well, which you'll be actually able to see a little more clearly. But I almost want to have the tail kind of raised. So again, the tail is literally just more of the petals. It's nothing crazy. And then we just got the trees down here. I'm just going to go straight through since it is pencil. And then a few more back here. Okay, so now we get that done. So now we're just going to start drawing in the muscle structure. To be honest, I don't know if this is correct. I just have a certain way I like to draw muscles and whatnot. But it's just like this part of the muscle grouping, this part right here, I've actually just started adding. I always have had this like on the outside of the leg. So then we'll just kind of continue. And then I did more feathers here. I'm just going to call them feathers. I don't know what they should be called. I know the griffin is like literally a half line back here and it's like all eagle up here. But I just want to give it like the deer body with the back legs and then obviously the wings. So that's why I'm like, I don't know what I should call it, but I guess we'll just call it feathers because he does look more deer than he does bird, which is fine. So, all right. And then toes. So there's that. Again, we won't really be able to tell that much, but that's okay. So there. And then I always have to do this when I'm sketching, but so this is like where the other leg is. So there's the underside of the leg, like the underside of the thigh. And then we go back here to the calf. And there we go. Okay, so now we can get more of the bird features, and that's why I cut it off back here too. And then we'll just draw in some of those. I'll probably add in more of the leg details later, but so there's that. So now I'm gonna get going and finish up the rest of this. Our saw palmetto Peryton is the guardian of endurance and the protector of underbrush. Its region is coastal plains, scrublands, and pine flatwoods of the southeast. The plant bond is a saw palmetto or the Saronia repens. The elements of it are earth and the sun. The size is the length of a fox, and the temperament is alert, loyal, and resilient. So these little plants will survive almost pretty much anything because they like the heat, they like the dryness, and yet they still grow. That's kind of what makes them alert and resilient, is that no matter how bad it gets, they're still hanging around ready for the next step. They're not going anywhere. They can survive those harsh conditions, kind of just showing that it just takes that mindset to get through hard things if necessary. And these plants will survive a whole bunch of stuff. So these are just a good reminder of no matter how hard it gets, you have to stay rooted and stay resilient to be able to continue on. So that's just a good little lesson with these plants. And just knowing that they can survive the harshest conditions is also something that's kind of amazing to think about if you really want to do. All right, and here is our finished little drawing of our Peryton here. He's not looking too bad. I might fix a couple things now that I'm looking at him again. I think I'm gonna have to. He's not looking exactly right, but pretty much this is what he's gonna be. So it's mostly him. I'm gonna do some fixtures on, which you'll see later when I come back with the inking done. But not too bad. I'm excited for the coloring. I kind of have an idea of how I want to do it. I almost want to do it in like a sheen kind of fashion. You'll see when I do the gray and the silver, or the gray and the blue, what I mean. But for now, not looking too bad. So let me go in and give him a quick fix, and then when I'm pretty much on with the coloring, we'll come back and continue on together. Okay, so this is where we are so far with the coloring. So I'll show you all the colors in a second, but as you can see, I'm kind of doing a lot of like muted colors because it's the forest. So obviously he's gonna stand out more, but when I do the pencil, I have an idea for this, so I'm excited. So for now, we'll have to deal with the bright blue and the silver. But what I'm trying to think is when I do pencil, because I kind of want to have light coming through, is I'll wait for the pencil, but I'm gonna have yellow, I think, and that's why some of this down here is a little bit lighter. But obviously most of this will be put into shadow, specifically like starting pretty much in this area going down. So really it's just gonna be this top part and these trees. And then obviously some of him will be lighter, but that's gonna be pretty much it for that. The rest of it will be in shadow, but I'm just trying to do this right now just to have for the base color. As you can see, I already started coloring this and I completely forgot I was not supposed to do that, so, but it's fine. We'll work on getting him completely together and then I'll work on this. But so far I'm liking it. I do like the colors. It feels very warm overall, which is nice, but it's also where this plant lives and everything. It seems like it needs a very warm environment anyway. So I kind of like that it gives this feel. So color-wise, I'm using a bunch of different random colors. So we'll start with him first. So, and also just a bunch of different marker brands. So the first one I have is this Peryton from Ho Marker, which I just color. And it also goes down here in some of these soft palmettos as well. So I have that one, and then we have this P177 from Tombow as well. And then we have this Peryton from, it's an off-brand, I suppose, from Montmartre. So I have that one. For his blue, I'm using this Cool Aqua. And then I have these two color blues. So it's going to be a P502 and a P535. For the gray, we have this Cool Gray. I have this PN65 and an Ice Gray 6. So now coming to the background, so what I was using for these little plants here is I have this Artist Loft, this like mint green. I am using this grass, and I'm also going back to this green as well. For the trail, I was using this orange. I have this brown 5 and then this P947. For the dirt, I have this dark brown. And then I have a chestnut. And this, ooh, does this have a name? It does not. So this is a special one. So it's just like a really, really, really dark brown. For the trees, like this area back here, oh, and for the roots as well, I'm using this P076. along with this orange and eggshell. And that should be all of them. So I'm using quite a few. As you can tell, most of them are pretty similar with one another. But that's just kind of how I do it. But starting off, I always start with doing a base color. So I already started the base color. So now let's keep on going. So I was actually copying the deer is what I was doing. I looked up a deer to kind of get more of what it would look like. So the inside of it was pretty white. So it seemed like going down the legs, it started getting a lot lighter, and on the inside, which that's something I normally do, is I color the inside of the legs anyway different. And then down here we'll just finish off, because I know the hooves are black, but I already started. And then underneath the jaw is a little bit of a different color. And so now we'll go in with doing this. So because I have the light coming here, I know all this is going to be, I am coloring the, I don't really know what I want to call it. I guess we'll just call it the feathers, like kind of individually to make them stand out. Like the top part will have light touching it, which obviously would make sense. And then as the farther we go down, it's just going to get more shadowed. But just to kind of give a nice little bit of a fur texture in there. Same thing with this. I did do most of this in shadow with a little bit of the highlight, which I thought would make sense for it to kind of be hitting off. So it'll kind of be the same thing with that as well. And then we'll go in. I only do 3 layers of colors. I don't do anything else. It's just the majority of what I color is going to come from the pencil. And because I am going to be trying some different lighting effects, I would rather wait until I had the pencil, because that'll be easier than me trying to like sit here and do this. Okay, so there's that. So that can go away. So now we're gonna have the gray here, just a little bit underneath the jaw. There's like a white patch. So I did half gray and half blue, which we'll see a little bit better here in a second. Just right now, because it's so light, you can't really see anything. And this marker is almost dead, but there's just enough left. Okay. And then for the blue, so definitely getting a nice bright blue, which it will get toned down here when I start working on the pencil. So like I said, I'm actually kind of excited to try my little experiment that I have an idea for. I think it'll be good. All right, so there's him done. So now I'm gonna come down here and then we're just gonna get this finished. Deep within the sun-baked flatwoods and tangled palmetto thickets is where our little Peryton likes to stay low and rooted, and it thrives among the underbrush where few dare to tread, because who knows what's laying underneath. It is the guardian of hidden paths, ancient roots, and stubborn plants that defy the harshest heat and deepest drought. Born from a lightning bolt that strikes an ancient palmetto during the peak of summer, it comes out from the scorched center of the clump, and it emerges small, smoky, and already fiercely alert. It is a treasure of resilience. And the longer a palmetto clump has survived fire, flood, or wind, the stronger the bond to its resident Peryton. Its abilities include the frond cloak, where it can just camouflage into other palmettos. Its sunflare puff is kind of a pollen that comes out of its mouth to blind or disorient the threat, so it's non-threatening, but enough to scare them away. It has a root bind bond that strengthens nearby plant life, and that can include its own palmettos or whatever lays near. And it endures and regrows, so like the plant it guards, it grows stronger after adversity, and the injuries will heal faster if it rests in sunlight, because sunlight is rejuvenating if you think about it. And like even for us, it's always good to have that sun. So that's why this plant is it's fantastic, because it is resilient and it's always ready for the next thing. Because it's resilient, it can continue to grow and grow stronger and come back even better than before. And by having that rest period of being in the sun and just feeling the rejuvenation, makes it even more tough and resilient and tolerant to very harsh conditions. So it's honestly, it really is just a good plant to kind of connect with, especially when it is something that you do face something that's hard and adverse in your life. And it is a way to come back from it and to just keep on growing and growing and not let it stop you. So this plant is just a good reminder of that, of no matter how bad the conditions, no matter how deserted you feel, no matter how hard it gets, the plant's there. Okay, and here's our final look for the marker. So not too bad. So I think it'll make a little more sense when I get the pencil going, especially down here with it being like so dark and stuff. I think it'll look better because yeah, it's gonna be pretty much like a circle of darkness, I suppose, is what I'm gonna attempt to do. We'll see if I can stick through, but I think I have a good head start on being able to do that. And that way we'll just have a little bit of light coming in through here, which I'll still probably shade some on the trees and stuff, but then but I'll still have some pretty decent light coming through. I'm gonna trust the process and actually try that. So I'll be back when we're ready for the next session of pencil. Okay, as you can see, I made some pretty darn good progress. All we have left that we're gonna do together is the head, the wing, and then the rest of back here. So that's gonna be pretty good. For the most part, it's where I want it to be. I do have like dark earthy colors, which I'll show you in a second, kind of going on here. But I think it makes sense with it being in the forest and not having that much light, and the little bit of light that is coming through is kind of just hitting certain parts. I think makes sense. I am putting a little bit of a yellow on here, but if anything, I feel like it's just kind of blurring stuff together. It's not really highlighting a yellow color. But I will put this digitally is what I'm going to do to kind of do some more outlines and stuff. So I'll try to play around and hopefully get more of that yellow I want, because I almost kind of want to have it bouncing off like on the ridges, which is kind of here a little bit where it's somewhat coming off. So I kind of want to do that and attempt that, and I have it right here on the trunk as well, and just see if that helps. But to go through the colors really quick, and then we will color something together. So for the background, what I'm using, or what I did use, and this is just for like back here, this isn't including anything up here, just all back here. I have a parrot green, I have this light aqua, we have a burnt ochre, mulberry, I have a light umber, and then I want to say like a yellow orange or something. I have several that are, it's very similar, so something like that. So those are done pretty much. So just I can get back here, that's why up here is pretty light, but I'm trying not to let it bother me too much because it is in the back, so for me it would be lighter anyway. And up here is where it's going to get darker, pretty much. So now the main colors. Obviously white. I use white and indigo blue because those are for my shading. That's just a blender. But I have this dark green and olive green. This is a goldenrod, dark purple, violet blue, true green, a dark brown. This should be, what is that one? Oh, a sienna brown. The actual name's off. I think it's the French name now. So I was like, I saw sienna, so I'm pretty sure it's sienna brown. I'm only using Prismacolor pencils. These are my favorite pencils to use. Just kind of how I can blend them out and stuff. So that's all that these are. These aren't a mixture. These are literally just my Prismas. I've got a Tuscan red. There's a 50% warm gray, or chartreuse. I have cloud blue, true blue, and there's like a light gray. I have a lemon yellow, which again, I was trying to add in a little yellow touch, which I actually kind of did up here too. We'll do some more in the face and then probably the top of the wing. We have this sienna, or no, sepia, my bad, and this dark umber. So that's the colors I'm using. So a lot of them are very like earthy tones, which I'm fine with because that's kind of how I got it to be like this. So now we're going to go through, do something together. So we're just going to do these two saw palmettos together. So I'm kind of going back and forth on some of them and having like the blue and the silver tips, kind of, because that's what some of them actually are colored as well. So that's what I was doing. I think I'll continue to do it for these two. Maybe the rest of these will just be like plain saw palmettos without the colored fringes. So we'll just do this. So because it is farther back, it's not like in direct sun, I'm just gonna use this true blue and just color the tips of it. And then I'll do the same with the gray. So it's gonna be like an ombre effect, but I'm gonna color them all one color. I'm not doing multiple, just so I can kind of tone down the color a tiny bit, even though you can still see what it is. I just didn't want to do them like super separately, so I wanted them to make some sense. Okay, and then we're gonna have the olive here kind of finish off, and I am bringing the olive like all the way up into the gray too, again to kind of help with a bit of blending. Okay, and now I'm going to take my dark purple, and we're just going to do this shading. So because I have the light coming in from up here, that's what I'm doing. So that's how I'm just gonna kind of put the color down, is to have the shading on the bottom right, pretty much. And now we go in with the violet blue and do somewhat the same thing, even though there is a little bit less violet blue on there. And now we're gonna finish off with this indigo, and then we're gonna blend. So that it still keeps some of the like silver and blue color, but the most of it's gray, which I'm fine with. And then I'm not gonna put yellow on here. I'm just gonna do a little bit of white, just for a little bit of highlight, but nothing crazy. Cause it's almost like the sun would kind of be touching it, but I don't want to have like straight yellow. All right, and there's that part. So now I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna finish coloring him before we go on to the next step. The symbolism of the saw palmetto Peryton is endurance in very harsh conditions, a rooted strength in a quiet protection, resilience after fire or trauma, and the wisdom of staying low and listening. So as some fun little facts, many forest scouts and desert dwellers and wildland guardians will actually carry a carved palmetto frond for protection and stamina. For attracting, it may actually visit well-tended native gardens that include palmettos that are undisturbed, spaces with partial sun and natural leaf litter, a stone or wood carving of the Peryton placed with intention, daily quiet rituals including journaling, meditation, or storytelling outside underneath that lovely palmetto shade. It said, if you sleep beneath the palmetto plant and dream of flame without any fear, the saw palmetto Peryton actually might acknowledge you as a possible ally, which is a good thing because that means that you carry the same type of symbols and what the palmetto represents. So that way it can come back to you and it can become your friend. So that's why it's important to show that no matter what you go through, you're going to be resilient, you're going to bounce back. And again, that's also why it's important to be out in the sun, because the sun just gives that rejuvenating feeling that we all need at times. And it's just a good way to kind of remind yourself that it's going to be okay, that there's always light on the other side, and that it is something that you will get through at times, even though it doesn't really feel like it, but it'll happen. And same thing with laying low and listening. It's always important as well to do that. Laying low is kind of just reserving your energy, getting the energy back, keeping up your strength. And listening is just listening to what your body and mind have to say, or just listening to the world around you to see what you can learn, what information you can get, or just anything that might help you for the future. It's always important. So if you can show these qualities to this little Peryton, then it will become an ally and it will actually come to your garden and then it'll help strengthen your plants. Whether it's a palmetto or not, it's still good. Obviously, it's better if there's palmettos because that's what it's connected to. So it has a stronger relationship with those, but any plants will do. But you just have to show it that you're an ally to it. So by sitting quietly and journaling and just showing that resilience that the palmetto plant shows, then you're well on your way to creating this little ally. And you got to remember though, he is the size of a fox. So he's not very big, but he's mighty and he's powerful. He's definitely got that little chutzpah that's needed sometimes to come back from something that is difficult, no matter how small it may be. It does take some it takes a lot to come back from some stuff. It can be hard with certain things. That's also why it's important to have that resilience, just knowing that it will get better. Even in like harshest conditions, it will get better. It might not seem like it might take a while, but at some point it does, whether you do that yourself or if you have help. At some point in time, it does, and that way you can grow back bigger and stronger than before. And now you know how to navigate it the next time that it happens or something similar happens. You know what you now need to do to protect yourself. So that's always important to think about, and just know that no matter what, it'll happen. It'll always get better. That sun's still going to be there, and that's why it's important to sometimes sit there quietly and just rejuvenate in the sun and just breathe. Because at some point, it will help you grow back bigger and stronger than before, to come back even harder and faster than what you were, to make sure that you can still get through those tough times, no matter how hard it gets, and be resilient. Here's the final pencil look. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it, especially with me like trying to figure out like different lighting techniques. It kind of has what I wanted, where it was darker on the outside and lighter towards the middle. So can't be too bad about that. I do like how the colors looked overall. I probably could have done a little bit better with trying to cover the gray and the blue here a little bit more so they weren't nearly as noticeable. But it's still pretty good. But again, it's just some of the palmettos are silver and a green blue. And mostly green, so that's why I'm like, it kind of works. But overall, not too bad. So now that we're at this point, we're ready to now go on to our last step, which is to re-outline. So hold on and we'll be back. And that brings us to the end of our first video of our Peryton character. He was fun to do. This was definitely a little bit different for me, just mostly color-wise, because I used very earthy tones versus normally like the bright colors I like doing. Also just the way I kind of colored it with like more of the focal point on the face. But overall, I still enjoyed it. So hopefully you learned a little something. And this is our Peryton in all his glory. So we went from this to this. So you can see it's a lot brighter. I actually included the lines that I needed to kind of help buff out some of the details I had before, like accentuating some of the feathers and such on the face. Also with the wings, it did lose some of its darkness, but that's just the way it happens. Plus, this is also on a screen, so it's obviously just going to look brighter on the screen. So that's why you have to come back here for the original. But you can see what I mean, where up here, it's just a lot brighter than it is back here, which was the point. So that way I could have a nice like focal area, and like back here I didn't outline, so I want it to be like more in the background with all this. I did think it helps also with the trees back here to kind of frame that lighter area. It looks a little funny, but it also works kind of at the same time. But that is the end of our little Peryton adventure for the original drawing. So I will be doing a cutesy and minis version, which will only be available on Patreon, but you have to be a paid member to get those if you want to see how I do 2 other styles of the same character.